right, when will the Vancouver housing bubble burst? It's an age-old question. I've been hearing this longer than I've been in the business. When will prices come back down to reality? And if you go through the news archives, Global News, CTV, CBC, they've been talking about this now for decades. When will the bubble burst? So I sat down for a beer with a colleague here. Sometimes we go up to R&B Brewing in Mount Pleasant and talk about real estate. I've got another guy, a broker that I talk to. And the conversation was about prices and how they're way out of alignment with local incomes. And I'm amazed. I still get these comments from you guys saying, Jay, don't you realize that prices are out of whack with local incomes? Well, of course, we all realize that. All my colleagues and mortgage brokers, we understand that prices are way out of alignment with local blue collar incomes or even white collar incomes. That's no surprise to anyone because the median household income is what? $90,000. That's usually dual incomes. And a lot of these people are looking to buy homes, $1.2 million condos, a $1.8 million townhouse, or a $2.6 million detached starter home in East Vancouver. And this is a huge multiple of incomes. We're talking, according to the latest stats, Vancouver trades around 14 times annualized incomes compared to a market like Calgary, which might trade at 4.5 times annual incomes. So a lot of people will say to me, and this is a recurring theme in the comments section, something's wrong here. It doesn't make any sense based on what I make. And that's where you get the blame game. The media has a field day with this. They blame the foreign money, foreign buyers. Well, we've had a foreign buyers ban in place for many years. Money from China, yeah, that tiger is out of the cage. International money has had an impact on the luxury market, luxury detached, super luxury condos in Cole Harbour. That probably had more of an impact there because that end of the market has cooled significantly since they brought in the, well, first of all, we had a foreign buyer's tax. They were then upped it, and now we have an all-out ban. But most people are not in that rarefied stratosphere anyway. Money laundering, we had a big commission looking into that. The other one I get a lot is over-leveraging. People have taken on too much debt. They're drowning in debt. And once the interest rates increase here, that's when there's going to be a reckoning. Well, we saw the fastest interest rate hikes on record here. It did cool the market to an extent. At one point, prices were down in aggregate about 10%. But there was really no distress selling, no foreclosures. The reason for that is most are not over-leveraged. None of my clients are over-leveraged. Most of them are using conventional financing, which means they're putting down 20, 25, 30% at minimum. The banks won't allow you right now to over-leverage, guys. They won't, especially since they brought in the B20 mortgage stress test. But I want to give you guys a stat. This is from Bob Rennie. It was an interview back in 2016, so the number's probably a lot higher today. But in 2016, he went on the record saying that there is 197 billion with a B of clear title equity in Vancouver. And that's why I think we've been so insulated from mortgage interest rates here. The loan to value in Vancouver right now stands around 50%. So your net equity, benchmark home value around 1.2, 1.3 million, you've accumulated over $600,000 in equity on average. And about half of owners in Vancouver have paid off their mortgage. West Side neighborhoods like Oak Ridge, Kerrisdale, Shaughnessy, that number is higher. Oak Ridge is at 64%. Kerrisdale, Shaughnessy, Dunbar, Southlands, 59 to 64% mortgage-free rates. And this is why we have been so insulated from mortgage interest rates here. It's a little different story in the Fraser Valley because you saw when they dropped the rates, the Fraser market value went crazy, and that has corrected significantly here. Probably more leverage in the Fraser Valley, people sticking their necks out, maybe stretching it as far as they can. And I think that's why there was more of an impact there, more leverage. But when you talk about Vancouver proper, there's just so much clear title equity, and the people that do have mortgages generally have fairly modest mortgages. Speculators, flippers, that's what's driven up this housing bubble. Well, there's no flipping going on right now. I can guarantee you that. Anybody who's flipping in this market needs to have their head examined. Pre-sale assignments are dead. Developers and investors, flippers, they've all moved to the sidelines here. They have no interest in that. So what is actually going on then? If it's not speculators and it's not foreign capital and it's not money laundering, how does it make sense? Well, the first component of this is we are in a geographically constrained market. We're surrounded by oceans, mountains, agricultural land reserve. We cannot build fast enough. There's just too many people that want to live here. I'm looking at Kitsilano with a client. You know, sure, inventory is above the 10-year average, but there's very little available in Kitsilano. Inventory is still pretty tight. But I'm going to tell you really how this works. People say, well, it's not sustainable. Well, it is sustainable, and I'll tell you exactly how it works. Let's use a hypothetical. Couple purchased a one-bedroom condo a decade ago for $340,000, okay? They probably had some help from the bank of mom and dad. Mom and dad bought a house in 1963. They're sitting on $2.5 million of equity. They have no problem kicking in $60K for the down payment. Maybe the couple kicks in another 20. So they've built some equity now. They sell the one bedroom for $650,000. Let's say they've paid down the mortgage. They've got, let's call it $450,000 to put down on a 2-bedroom unit. Later down the road, they're going to sell the 2-bedroom condo and buy a townhome, then get into a starter home in East Vancouver. Fast forward, they're going to sell that. They need to downsize. They're going to put $1 million or $2 million in the bank and buy a luxury condo with a view. Now the whole cycle starts all over again, but it's all based on equity. It's intergenerational wealth. It is in no way, as far as I can tell, there's very, very little correlation to local incomes. If you want a blue collar market where prices are correlated to what you make, you're going to need to look at Calgary, Winnipeg, Regina. That's where you're going to find these markets. But these guys keep saying it's a recurring theme here. The prices have to adjust back to the mean. Well, if you're talking about Vancouver real estate prices dropping down to 4.5, 5 times what you make, you're dreaming in Technicolor, guys. It's never going to happen. These waterfront destination cities they are reserved for multimillionaires only. That's just how it is. You know, I've talked to people in the industry. I talked to Brad Lamb. If you don't know you guys might not know who Brad Lamb is. He's not big in Vancouver, but if anybody who's watching from Toronto knows who Brad Lamb is, this is a big shot condo developer. At the time I interviewed him, he had a net worth of over $800 million, very smart guy. And he told me, Jay, the city of Vancouver is going to be a city for multimillionaires. It's just the way it is. Get over it, deal with it. There's really not a lot that government or anyone can do about it. I want to quote somebody here. I talked to Vince Taylor over at Pilot House Realty, a very smart guy. And he said to understand local real estate, you have to understand global real estate. And I want to look at the numbers here. It's a great resource called Numbeo. And it'll give you what's called the price to median income multiple. Okay. Now Vancouver is at 13.5. So it takes you almost 14 times your annualized income to be able to afford a home in Vancouver. Now you compare that to Calgary again at 3.5 times or 4 times. I mean, it's extremely expensive for North America, but I don't think that's not really what you want, where you want to be looking. You want to be looking towards globally. You want to be looking at Europe. So Zurich is at 13.5 times. Paris, 16.7, London, 20.62. Go into Numbeo. Look these stats up for yourself, you guys. Asia, let's look at Tokyo. They're at 14.9 times. Hong Kong, 28.5. Shanghai, 37.2. So I keep hearing this. Vancouver is the most expensive, most unaffordable real estate market on the planet. We're not, guys. We're in the middle of the pack here. And what I find, the people that always talk about this real estate bubble, they always tend to be at the lower end of the income distribution. They tend, let's call a spade here. They tend to be struggling. They're renters. They're the same people posting angry comments on my YouTube channel here. I don't care. I've got a thick skin. A lot of these guys seem to be angry at me. I don't control the prices, but I have clients coming here from London, Manhattan, Singapore. They don't flinch at the prices here. My guy I was talking to from Singapore, he said the prices are absolutely outlandish, far higher than what you'll find in Vancouver. So my take, I don't think that there is a real estate bubble. I think it's a myth. I think it's just basic supply and demand. It's interest rates. It's a land constrained market, boxed in on all sides. And I think the most likely outcome, could it crash? Sure. I guess it could. Who knows? But I think the most likely outcome is that prices will continue to keep slowly heading higher over the long term. Every few years, you're going to get a 4 or 5% or maybe a 10% price correction. That's fairly normal. That's healthy. But I think long term, the trend is it's going to be higher. Last point, a lot of this, you guys, is just inflation as well. Because if inflation is running at 3 or 4% a year, usually real estate is going to have to increase at least by that amount. It has to, because the cost of land, labor, building materials, that's all going to be going up at the rate of inflation. So real estate prices can't really go down in that environment. Right now, what's happening though in the development industry, as I've said, talking to my pre-sale insiders, pre-sale's dead right now. Developers are scared shitless. We've got socialist governments at all levels. We've got the NDP. It's a very hostile business environment. Developers have moved to the sidelines, investors, speculators, everyone is off to the sidelines right now. And I personally think there's been a number of articles on this that have flown under the radar recently, but I think that this is going to set the stage for the next surge in real estate prices. Matter of fact, I'm more concerned about a run up in real estate prices or seeing double-digit gains in prices than I am about a sustained downturn here. And I share that with a number of economists. I've talked to Brendan Augmanson about that. He's concerned that, give it a year or 2 or 3 with what's going on in the pre-sale industry, that we're going to have another supply crunch and the prices are going to go up again. And that's not a fun market for anyone. That means you're in multiple offers, bidding wars. Right now, you can write an offer subject to finance, inspection, wait a week or 2 for subjects to come off. It's actually a great time right now to be a buyer. I don't know how long this window is going to stay open. Typically, summer is pretty slow. We'll see. But again, the real estate bubble, if you guys are hoping for prices to come down 40, 50%, 80%, I think you're dreaming in Technicolor, guys. It's never going to happen. I'm Jay Coupar. Feel free to comment below or subscribe. See you in the next video.